Welcome to the Saturday Cadence Podcast. I'm Blake Biscardi, and remember, the Saturday Cadence Podcast is the heartbeat of college football. We tell you this all the time, that if you see a slate of college football games and you know what, you don't see a lot of marquee matchups, you're like, this week's not going to be that eventful. Chaos strikes. Chaos always strikes. We tell you it. It's just how the sport works. We don't make the rules. We just know them. And that's exactly what happened this Saturday. So welcome into Saturday Cadence. My name is Blake Biscardi, and I am your host. A lot to get to on today's show. So much to recap from Saturday's action. And you may think, well, where are we going to start tonight's show? It's the same debate that I've been having all day. Florida takes down Texas. Alabama dominates Vanderbilt. Miami looks really good, improves their resume with a great road win in Doak Campbell Stadium over Florida State. But the biggest one, the biggest shocker, UCLA takes down Penn State. James Franklin, I mean, this is now a 5-alarm fire for the Nittany Lions of what on earth has happened in this matchup. We'll get to that in about 2 seconds. Just looking across the slate of Saturday's games, yeah, we saw some good results. We saw some surprising results. But Penn State losing to 0-4 UCLA that doesn't have a head coach or its coordinators. Deshaun Foster gets fired. Both coordinators are gone. We've got Tim Skipper as the interim coach. I'm just looking at this game and just scratching my head. And I mean, there was a part of me last week that was like, you know what? This is, if you look historically at Penn State under James Franklin, anytime there's a big emotional loss like that, they have a letdown spot. So, I mean, the thought crossed my mind of, okay, what if UCLA covers? The thought did not cross my mind that UCLA would just win the game outright. And, I mean, for James Franklin and for Penn State, this is not good, no matter how you shake out this game. UCLA was 0-4. They were a bottom-feeding Power 4 team. They were one of the worst teams, if not the worst teams in the Big Ten. And you start the season ranked number 2, national championship expectations. All of everything in the offseason is pointing to this Oregon game and then Ohio State. You drop the Oregon game. You know what? It's a hard-fought battle. You lost it in overtime. Offense was stagnant for 3 quarters. Defense played well for the most part. You get the game to overtime. You have a chance to win, and you lose. And oh my goodness, it's heartbreaking. It's terrible. It's not what you expected. Yeah, big disappointment. But you can't let that spiral against 0-4 UCLA. There's a leadership problem in this loss for the Nittany Lions. And you may think back to me and say, well, Blake, there's been a leadership problem with James Franklin. He can't win the big game. This is not about, can James Franklin win the big game? This is not about anything other than listen to his press conference. If you have not listened to his press conference after the game, pause the show right now, go listen to it, and come back to hear, if you want to hear the full thoughts. He blamed travel. He blamed an emotional letdown. They didn't recover from that loss. There were some injuries. And takes responsibility of it at the end, says it's his responsibility, which, yes, coach, it is. But when you're having to name all those factors against a team that was 0-4, I mean, it is demoralizing to your program that had national championship expectations. This was a leadership failure from James Franklin. That press conference was the same as the press conferences after his other losses. I mean, at what point now, I don't know if this is recoverable. I don't know if it's recoverable for him. And I'm not saying they're going to fire him this week or anything like that. No, I just don't think this is one of those forgivable losses. If you are a Penn State fan, a Penn State admin, a Penn State booster, anybody involved around the program, I mean, this is a really, really hard one to recover from. And I say that because UCLA was 0-4. Like I said, bottom-feeding Power 4 team. You've got national championship expectations tied to your name. Start the season ranked number 2 or number 3, depending on what polls you're looking at, falling to unranked by the first weekend of October. The October 5th AP poll, Penn State is not included. If someone would have said that to me in August, I would have said, no way. Drugs. Texas, Penn State, and Clemson. 3 of the preseason top 4 teams. They are not included in the October 5th AP poll. I mean, think about that one. But back to Penn State with James Franklin. This one is going to be really hard for him to come back from. Now, you got 2 losses. This Oregon game has clearly spiraled the program. Now you're back into a corner. How do you bounce back from this? Okay, let's say they go into Columbus and they beat Ohio State. Are you making the playoff? You lost to an 0-4 team. UCLA may not win another game this season. Who knows that? Or they may finish the season 8-4. Who knows? I don't know if beating Ohio State's enough for Penn State to get into the playoff. I don't know. I do not know. That is an unforgivable loss. I think in the eyes of committee members, in the eyes of voters, in the eyes of the fans and the admin, we're going to find out. But I'm telling you right now, I don't know if Penn State has a path to the playoff. I do not. Even if they went out and beat Ohio State and Indiana. That's going to be really tough. Really tough. Penn State loses to Ohio State, and then they beat Indiana. I don't know. I don't know. This one, the program itself, and I'm being very careful with my words. It's why I'm going through this take a little bit slower than normal. I don't know that Penn State as a program can move forward from this season without some form of major change. Some people were saying that this is the most talented coaching staff in college football. And think of that statement. Whether it is or not, even to be mentioned in that vein for Penn State is huge. This is a veteran roster. They return a ton of production. Penn State's still struggling to run the football. They are struggling to throw the football vertically. And one of the things, and I give him credit, Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews was on this show in August, and he said, you know what? Penn State, he picked them to win the national championship. But with Penn State and with Clemson, he said about both of those teams, they return so much production, but will it be the same team or not? Have we already seen that team's ceiling? If we are hard stop pausing the football season right now with the data that we have up until October 5th, this team has already hit its ceiling, and it wasn't this year. It was last year. Penn State has Andy Kotelnicki as the offensive coordinator. They get Jim Knowles from Ohio State, pay him $3+ million. You hire Stan Drayton, a former head coach at Temple, former running backs coach at Ohio State and Texas, to be your running backs coach. Plus you have James Franklin. Just those 4 coaches alone, think of the experience that you have. And the running backs look like they've regressed. Drew Aller doesn't look like he's taken a step forward. There's no receiver that makes you nervous for Penn State on the outside. But take away the 11 players on the field, I just look at the sideline. I really do. I really look at the sideline. I don't know. James Franklin is going to have to figure something out because I don't know the answer for him. I don't know what he does. I don't think beating Ohio State is going to solve the problems. I don't think it's going to take the taste out of the mouths of these fans and that administration. after losing that game to Oregon and then dropping a game to 0-4 UCLA. UCLA was 10 for 16 on third down, 446 yards of offense. They ran the ball for 280 for 5.5 yards a carry, 52 rushing attempts. They just controlled the game. You are Penn State. And you just, okay, you're traveling across the country. No excuse to get 280 yards on your head from an 0-4 football team. And I'm not trying to disrespect UCLA at all in this take. This is purely from a Penn State perspective. When you have national championship expectations tied to your name, you're not worrying about that opponent unless it's a matchup game. This is about you versus you. That's acceptable. Jim Knowles' defense giving up almost 500 yards for the second week in a row. 40 points. 40 to UCLA. There is just no way. There's just no way that as a Penn State fan, as a Penn State administrator, that you're not thinking of, okay, can we get the money for the buyout? Can we do it? I don't know what James Franklin could do. Could they come back and win a national championship this year? I mean, on paper, maybe. But these losses now, yeah, well, you break it down to the big games, and sure, Penn State hasn't taken that step to be an elite program. We all remember that famous post-game press conference in 2018 with James Franklin after losing to Ohio State, blowing a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter for the second straight season. And he's like, well, we're not an elite program yet. James, you're still not an elite program yet. Drew Aller and Andy Kotelnicki, that marriage doesn't seem to be working. That style of offense needs a mobile quarterback, or Kotelnicki has to just call more of a pro-style attack. I mean, those are the things. Good offensive coordinators, yeah, they have a system, but they tailor it to the talent and to the personnel that they have, especially when they don't have the ability to go out and recruit their guy in the first couple years. It's just not working. Penn State has talent. They just need to figure out how to maximize it and how to use it, because right now, this team and this program has regressed. And there's no excuse for that with the coaching staff that you have, with the talent that you have on those rosters. This is 5-alarm fire territory for Penn State. 5-alarm fire. There is no excuse for that to happen. There is not. And you have to give major shout out to UCLA for going and winning that game. Major shout out. And I don't know where James Franklin goes from here. You're going to see the metal that he's made out of. And I think we've already seen it. But how this program responds to this, I mean, they could pack it. I mean, this could be a downward spiral. This could be a snowball on a hill. This is a 5-alarm fire for Penn State. This is a 5-alarm fire. To the ACC, nonetheless, here we go. We have got Miami taking down Florida State. I don't think these two teams are as separate as the scoreboard indicated. I think Tommy Castellanos tried to force the ball down the field a little too much, and it cost them. They turned the ball over again. Florida State did not play clean, but that's football. And Miami played really well, and Miami did not turn the football over. And Miami went on the road and controlled a game and was opportunistic and got a big win in conference, got a big win for the resume, and continues to be one of the best teams in the sport. So Carson Beck and Miami, they have looked outstanding so far in this season. They have just looked phenomenal. The defense has played well. The offense has looked good. They've got great receivers, Mark Fletcher, and the running game has been outstanding. I really, really, really love what Miami has been able to do this season. And their resume may be the best in the country now. That Texas has lost, that hurts Ohio State a little bit. Penn State's now out of there. LSU, has taken a little bit of a tumble after the loss to Ole Miss, but even there, Clemson has gone down. So there's not a lot of great resumes out there. It's a lot of eye test, and it is evident that Miami is probably the most tested team right now. Whether or not you put them number one in your polls, I think Miami should be number two, right behind Ohio State, because of how dominant the Buckeyes have been. I don't think they should be penalized for that. But if you rank Miami number one, it's not like I'm going to be mad at you or be like, well, I don't really see that. No, I do see that. Miami could be the best team in the country. They absolutely could be. And that win over Florida looks better now because they took down Texas. The win over USF continues to grow every single week because we know USF took down Florida and they look like the G5 team right now, or at least one of them. And then to go beat the Seminoles and Doak, that's tough to do. And this game was 28-3 at one point. And yeah, you can say, oh, we can take away the turnovers. And I would love to do that. I would love to see this game played where the turnover battle was even and how these teams really stack up against each other. But part of football is turnovers. And Miami got them and they were up 28-3. And this program is in the best position that it has been in probably 2 decades. It really is. This Miami team is a contender. This Miami team could play for a national championship. They could play for an ACC championship. There's a lot in front of this team. And every year we wait for the week where Miami falls apart and the wheels come off. And I don't know if this Miami team is capable of that. I'm not saying Miami won't lose. I'm saying Miami is not capable of losing in the ways that it has lost or it's blown it in years past. This is a complete football team on offense, on defense, on special teams, and on the coaching staff. This is a really good football team. So I'm impressed from what Mario Cristobal has been able to do this year with the Hurricanes, because Miami, they even got outgained in this game. Florida State outgained them 404 to 338. So they had a hard time running the football, both teams. Neither team was over 3.5 yards a carry. But Carson Beck, he was really efficient. He was 20 for 27. I have a lot of respect for him. Mark Fletcher, again, didn't do a ton, but Malachi Toney, he was the difference in this game. He had 7 catches for 107 yards, and he had those 2 scores. You know, that long 44-yard reception, that was really good football by him. And they just continue to be a complete team every week. They don't beat themselves, Miami. And that's the difference between this Miami team and some of the other ones. Yeah, do you have a veteran quarterback? But you had Cam Ward last year. The defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. You shore up that defense. You bring in another veteran quarterback in Carson Beck, who kind of wants to resurrect his career a little bit. Didn't have a lot of help last year at Georgia with those dropped passes from those receivers. But Beck has looked really good. He had 4 touchdowns in the game through the air. So Carson Beck, he's going to approach that Heisman territory. And Miami is they are the favorite in the ACC. They are a legit national title and college football playoff contender in my book. One of the other games you want to look at is Florida defeating Texas. Now, we had this game on the upset board again. Now, Grant was the one who took Florida. I had thought about it, and I was like, my logic was Texas, yeah, they've disappointed, but this is going to be that prove it game for Texas where they go on the road in a tough environment, and they go in there and they get a win. They get a nice commanding win. It didn't have to be a blowout. I just thought they could win by a touchdown. And I thought this was going to be the week that Texas and that talented roster and that coaching staff, they would put everything together. That was not the case. I don't know if Texas has another gear. Arch hasn't looked sharp. He really has not. He has underperformed. DJ Lagway, 21 for 28, 298, and 2 touchdowns on a pick. Florida is extremely talented. We've talked about Florida a lot. We have high hopes for the Gators. But when you're in these games, and that's part of the SEC, that's part of the ACC, that's part of the parity that's coming across the sport. Is yeah, Florida's entering this game at 1-3. Florida lost to USF. Florida lost to Miami, and they come in here and they beat Texas because Miami has, or because Florida, excuse me, has that much talent. Billy Napier, when he's coaching for his job, Florida's really good. If Billy Napier could figure out how to bottle up the desperation mode factor that he has to coach with in some of these spots, that would be a playoff team. It would be. Florida's that good, potentially. Like they're potentially that good because they're not consistent. Florida beating Texas wouldn't have surprised me if you said this, hey, in August or in July, and you're like, you know what? Florida's going to beat Texas. I could see it. I could. It was a game we circled and said, you know what? That could be trouble. It's tough to play in the swamp. Florida's really talented. DJ Lagway is good. There's some matchup issues there. Texas cannot run the football. And Florida's good against the run. And Florida could run the football. All these things compiled to now where Florida gets a big win. This schedule is a gauntlet. It is a gauntlet. They have to play at Texas A&M this week at night in College Station. Nightmare atmosphere. And they've got Mississippi State, who has improved this year, mind you. They did lose to A&M last week, so they fell to 4-2. Then they got Georgia after a bye week. I mean, this is a tough schedule. Kentucky after that, they finish at Ole Miss, home against Tennessee, home against Florida State. Brutal. And they're sitting at 2-3. This loss is going to be really tough for Texas to recover from. It's not near as bad as Penn State losing to UCLA. Texas could still make the playoff, but Texas needs a lot of things to happen, and they need Florida to win some games. I don't know if Florida's capable of doing that. This might be a 4-8 team. This might be a 6-6 team. This might be an 8-4 team. The jury is still out on Florida because it depends on what team shows up. That's the biggest thing with Florida. What team is going to show up? Because if the team that showed up on Saturday shows up for the rest of the season, yeah, 8-4 is likely, is possible. 9-3, I don't think Florida is able to win out against that. If they do, they're going to be in the playoff. And they would be most likely in the SEC championship game because they'll have one conference loss. But it really depends what Florida team shows up. And for Texas, Steve Sarkisian now, can we ask the hard question about Sark? What big games has he really won? Yeah, he's won more than James Franklin. He's beaten Alabama in the regular season. I don't know, though. How much different is it with Steve Sarkisian when he gets into a high leverage spot? When is Texas going to be able to get over the hump? I get that everyone's coming back to earth with Arch, and yeah, those expectations were sky high, and it was like LeBron coming out of high school. I get it. We got to temper those a little bit. But even Arch hasn't played that well this whole season. He just has not. So Texas is not in a 5-alarm fire, but I think it's 2 alarms. I think 2.5. They got Red River coming this week. No John Mateer. I mean, if there was a spot Texas could figure it out, this is the time to do that. You got to beat Oklahoma because, like Penn State, again, apples to oranges, but parallels where you lose one game, then you lose a second one, and then it could just spiral because then you're having 3 losses by the middle of October. That's not what anybody wanted to see in Texas. It's just not what they thought that it would be. And they need to figure out how they can get this right, how they can solve these problems, how they can push the ball down the field, how they can run the football, how they can play better defense. So for Texas, I'm getting concerned for Sarkisian and the Longhorns, another team preseason that they were crowned national champions. They were crowned the favorite. They were crowned the number one team in the country. It's tough for Steve Sarkisian in Texas and James Franklin in Penn State. It is tough out there. Alabama, though, wasn't tough for them. They got Vandy with ease. Yeah, this was a battle in the first half, like we thought. But Alabama, Ty Simpson, quietly, I'm telling you, Alabama's good. I'm telling you. I didn't sell my stock on Bama. They did not look good against Florida State. But I did not sell my stock. And I would actually buy Alabama stock. Right now, they're my pick to win the SEC. Ty Simpson's been great. He threw for 340 more yards, 2 more touchdowns. Yeah, he had the pick. But to me, what I wanted to see with Alabama was, can they find a running game? Because I know with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams and that wide receiving core that, yeah, you know what? They can find offense. Ty Simpson is good enough. They can push the ball down the field. Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer will find a way. But can they run the ball? Jam Miller came back last week against Georgia. This week, 22 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown. That's what you want to see from Alabama. If I can start seeing some balance, maybe not 50-50 balance, but if I can start seeing balance from Alabama offensively, I'm really going to believe, because that defense is good. It's not great, but it's getting better. The running game for Alabama was my big takeaway, because Vanderbilt's a legitimate team. They were 5-0. Diego Pavia has played well all year long. Cedric Alexander, he only carried the ball 4 times, but for 76 yards. He led them in rushing. And Pavia, he carried it 12 times. I mean, when your quarterback is your whole offense, and we've said this about Georgia Tech with Haynes King, it gets tough when you play these matchup style games to really win if your quarterback is pretty much your whole offense. So for Pavia, that was what pretty much happened in this game against Alabama. They were not able to get anybody else going, and Alabama was able to just squeeze them. I mean, think about Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton. It's tough to stop those guys. They were all over 65 yards through the air. Alabama could spread the wealth. Jam Miller, 136 yards on the ground, like I said. They could spread the wealth. But Vanderbilt, I like what they're doing. I mean, I think that this team is obviously going to make a bowl game. They're sitting at 5-1. They only need one more win. I think they get it. They have a shot for 8-9 wins. But for Alabama, I wanted to see them respond to that win against Georgia, not have a letdown spot here. I wanted to see them cover to prove me, like, yeah, you know what? That pick for them to win the SEC is legit. They could do that. If they could be focused, if they can come to this game after how it went a year ago, and they can stay focused, and they can put their head down, and they can go win by double digits, I was going to become a big believer. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday. 30-14 was the final score after being tied at the half. Alabama just said, that's enough. They said, that's enough. Texas Tech is also quietly playing really well. Cincinnati, a team that you should keep on your radar. Another thing I want to talk about real quick before we end the show, after we do the AP poll, Ohio State's defense. Buckeyes won 42-3. Huge game for Julian Sain and Carnell Tate. Jeremiah Smith also involved. The Buckeyes have only given up 25 points in 5 games. And if you are a Penn State fan and you're thinking, oh, we got Jim Knowles, we got it. I don't think you're feeling that great about this right now, seeing what Ohio State's able to do with Matt Patricia, giving up 5 points a game. 5. Yet to allow a red zone touchdown. Go to Champaign, Illinois next week. That's a place historically Ohio State struggles. But I wanted to shout out the Buckeye defense and Matt Patricia for everything that he has done this year with that unit. Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caden Curry. All those guys leading that charge defensively and playing at a really, really high level on that side of the football. I do want to go to the AP poll real quick. I'm going to read this to you down. This is the top 10. Ohio State number 1, then Miami and Oregon round out the top 3. I think there's a drop off after that. I put a nice drop off after the top 3. Ole Miss at 4, A&M at 5, Oklahoma and Indiana 6 and 7, Alabama, Texas Tech, and Georgia round out the top 10. Then we've got a cluster of SEC teams continuing with LSU and Tennessee at 11 and 12, Georgia Tech at 13, Missouri sitting at 14, Michigan 15. I'm fine with that poll. It's better than other ones. We just really need to evaluate resume a little bit better. Georgia Tech should be higher. And I think Alabama should be watched. Circle Alabama. Just watch them. But Indiana getting some national respect, moving up to 7. They travel to Eugene on Saturday. College game day will be in town. I think Indiana has a shot to get back to the playoff, but Indiana is going to have to beat either Oregon or Penn State. The unfortunate part for Curt Cignetti, both of those games are on the road. So they're going to have to win a big road game, I think, to get to the college football playoff. I don't think it will be enough for them to be 10-2 with losses to Penn State and Oregon in your 2 biggest games and still have an argument for the playoff. I would find that difficult. But to each his own. And everyone has a vote. And maybe Indiana's able to get in. But that's just where I'm at with those teams. And then if you look at my top 10, something that I was looking at, the beginning was, okay, does Miami get to number 1? Again, I wouldn't be mad if they did. I want to see Georgia Tech. I think now they are going to contend for the ACC with Florida State taking a second conference loss. So it's going to be right now Miami, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. Those are your top 3 teams in the ACC. So that race is fascinating to me because Florida State's not out of it, but they need help. My top 10, Ohio State at 1, Miami 2, Oregon 3, Oklahoma 4, Ole Miss 5, Texas A&M 6, Alabama all the way up at 7, Indiana at 8, Texas Tech at 9, and Georgia sitting there at 10. Right behind them would be Georgia Tech. That's my top 10. That's how I see it right now. We're going to get a lot of answers on Saturday. A lot. I'm just going to tell you the slate of games that we have on tap for us. Ohio State is visiting Illinois. That game is at noon. Alabama heads to Missouri, also at noon. Tight spread in that one. We're going to get to that on the Thursday show. Interesting matchup here with Pitt at Florida State. Another noon kick. Indiana at Oregon. 3:30 CBS, undefeated top 7 showdown. Red River at the same time on ABC, Oklahoma, Texas. Again, if you would have told me Texas would be unranked in that game, that would be nuts. But that's the truth. That's the reality that we're living in. Florida, Texas A&M, just a big spot. Georgia, Auburn, that game quietly in Jordan-Hare. Night game, tight spread. It's at 3.5. A real ominous game. Michigan at USC. Really, really good football, guys, on Saturday. South Carolina going to LSU. BYU and Arizona, Arizona State and Utah. Huge games in the Pac-12 or the Big 12, excuse me. Lots of good football. We are going to have an absolutely loaded show for you guys on Thursday. Make sure you're staying tuned to the channel, to the socials, and to my TikTok. We're going to have lots of content for you guys there. But we appreciate you listening to today's show. Again, if you've got answers about Penn State and James Franklin, let us know. Let's talk about them. But guys, thank you for listening. We will see you on the Thursday show. That was the recap for week 6, and we will see you on Thursday. God bless.